Welcome to the weekly Shir of the Zera Shimshon. And it's Yud Nisan, Tafshin Pei Aleph, and we're the week before Pesach. And the reason I'm going to split this up into two parts because Amleil HaSeder, we're supposed to, after the Seder's over, according to some shitas, you should say Shir HaShirim, because that's the one of the five Megillas that's read on Chol Hamoed Pesach, the Shabbos Chol Hamoed. And we'll investigate a little bit. I'm going to break this up into, it's a little bit long, but it's worthwhile to listen to the whole thing. And it's the first section in Zera Shimshon, the Chamesh Megillos, Shir HaShirim. And let's start, okay? Midrash Shir HaShirim Rabbah, he brings down Shir HaShirim ala pasuk, and the pasuk says, "Yishokini b'yishikes piyoki tevim dedecha miyayin." Okay, so it says, Omer Rabbi Yehuda, "B'shas shomu Yisrael anecha Hashem alekecha." At the time that the Jewish people heard the first of the Aseres HaDibros, nitka Talmud Torah b'libam. So it was pounded in, literally like a peg into their hearts, the Talmud Torah. So they were able to learn without forgetting, which is an amazing thing for anybody. Since they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said to him, "Daber ato imanu v'nishma," you speak with us, because we had quite a horrific experience. And when God spoke to us, we fell over dead, and He had to bring us back to life. So that's not such a pleasant experience. I don't want that, and we didn't really want to have it happen again. He doesn't say that in Shir HaShirim Rabbah, but that's what the Gemara says. So because of that, they asked Moshe Rabbeinu to substitute. He should take the place of God to teach them. They started to forget. It sounds like that the reason they started to forget is because they said to Moshe, "You speak to us." What's wrong with that? Well, there's a Gemara in Eruvin that's a little bit of a contradiction to that. If it wouldn't have been, if it had not happened that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first tablets, the Jewish people wouldn't have forgotten Torah. Because even before he broke the tablets, when they received the Torah already, directly from God, they already came on to Shicha because Mishum Daber Ato Imanu, because they said, "You speak, and we'll not. You speak for us, so we don't have this, horrific experience of dying." Okay, Nir Elitar. So that sounds like a contradiction. So Nir Elitar, it's the Isa Lahem, the Isa Laha. So it says it's both. They're both right. We'll see how he is mitaritz. This is amazing. So Shikasav Asera Hasara Ma'amares in Chelik Beis. One of the great Mikubalim, Asera Ma'amares, he wrote in Chelik Beis, which is Maimer Chikar Hadin Perak Yudvav. It says there, Shekisha Omru Yisrael Moshe Daber Ata Imanu V'Nishma. When the Jewish people said this, you speak, Moshe Rabbeinu, you speak for us and we'll listen. Mi'as Kadesha Lo Yishkachu Nitna Torah Likasiv Aluchas Ha'evin. So because of that, the Torah was written on these precious stone tablets, Lehasser Leva Evan, to remove the stone heart from them. That seems puzzling. So what does that mean? Al Kain Hashicha Ba Le'olam Al Yidei She'amar LeMoshe Daber Ata Imanu. So the forgetfulness came to them in the world because they said to Moshe, "Speak for us and we'll listen. Speak to us and we'll listen." But the correction came to them because the luchos were written on stone. And then afterwards Moshe Rabbeinu broke them. Nishara Shicha b'lishum takana. Now, forgetfulness comes out without any way of fixing it. But ayin oid le'el b'Parshas Eschana. We're not going to go there, but you can go look at, if you have the Sefer Zera Shimshon, you can go and, it's a long piece, so they didn't want to bring it in here right now. In Parshas Eschana and Ois Vav there. And it says, where it says, ve'etan lecha es aluchas ha'eben. Okay, there. Maybe we'll go back when we get there and we'll investigate it. Because of forgetfulness came into the world because of their refusal to listen directly from God, so they had to increase the Torah. And therefore, K'de'isa b'midrash, and it's a midrash Shmais Rabbah, Parsha Mem Vav. Ala pasuk va'era v'hine b'chatosem la'Hashem Elokechem. Behold, you've sinned to God. V'hitzchil Moshe mitzta'er al sheshiva asaluchas. Moshe Rabbeinu became aggravated. He was brokenhearted because he did break the luchas. Omar la'akadosh baruch hu al titzta'er. So don't be aggravated about it. B'rishonos lo hayu ela aseres hadibros. There's a big chiddush he's saying here. On the first tablets, there was only aseres hadibros, the 10 Commandments. V'shniyos ani noisin mikro mishnah. That's ad kamashen. And then the second tablets, he wrote everything down. Okay. Ve'inyan hu shebeluchos hayu merumazim kol ha'neviim v'aksuvim ha'mishnah v'hagemara. On the luchos, there was hinted the entire prophets and the ksuvim and all the accessories, I mean, the Mishnah and the Gemara. Can you imagine how much space did he have? I don't know. And the Torah was written on the heart of each and every person. That's what it says in Yirmiyahu, Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Lamed Beis. Nasati Torasi b'kirbam, I gave my Torah in their midst, means in that side of them. And on their hearts I wrote it. They didn't have to learn Torah because they all became like Avraham Avinu. His 2 kidneys became like 2 Rabbanim teaching him Torah all the time. And they would spring forth with wisdom. And this Abrishis Rabbah says, Dai lahem chamisha chumshei Torah. They will only suffice to have the 5 books of Torah. Because, kedei leidah hadinim, in order to find out the judgments, the mitzvahs, and all the commandments. They weren't forgetting. They would understand all the hints that were in the Torah, and all the oisiyos. But after they sinned with the golden calf, it was hidden from them the wells of wisdom. And it wasn't springing forth from their kidneys anymore. And then, because the tablets were broken, now it was caused that they had forgetfulness. Therefore, Moshe became aggravated. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't reveal to them all the secrets of the Torah that were in the first luchos. And even if he would reveal something to them, then it would begin to be forgotten from them. Since forgetfulness came down into the world. Okay, for Omar loy HaKadosh Baruch Hu al titzta'er, don't be aggravated. Shani etein lahem mikro mishnah. I will give them the written word in the Torah, right? And I'll give them the Mishnah also. That means all the Torah that was hinted in the first commandments. Even though it would be forgotten from them, but still, they could go back and learn it out from the midst of those letters. And that's how it would and by chazering over and doing it again, that's how they would remember. It would be fulfilled in their hands. The only problem that they have to do is go review and do a nachamal and another time and another. That's why we have to review so many times, because we're always forgetting. And not only that, but we get repaid back. We get rewarded for doing the chazara over and over and over again. Ayin le'el in Parshas Kisisa, and look at that at length over the Parshas Kisisa in Ois Kaf Aleph. When them seen the medim sheikar hashir chaba le'olam ayidei she'amar Moshe daber ta'imana. So the reason why the forgetfulness came into the world is because they said to Moshe, "You speak for us, and we'll learn from you." That was on the day of Matan Torah, which is Shuas. Okay, so that's why, because of the forgetfulness, we couldn't get everything just directly out of those Aseres of Dibros. We had to go and get Torah and Nevi'im and Ksuvim and the Mishnah and the Gemara. Okay, Zehi Kavanas Rav Yosef Perak Vav Shisha de Psachim and Daf Samach Ches Omid Beis. Omer Rabbi Elazar Hakol Maidim Ba'Aseres Shabayim Shabeina Nami Lachem. So everybody agrees there's a machlekes in Gemara and Beitza about whether Shavuos needs to have the element of your own personal pleasures. Can you go home and eat and drink on Shavuos? Or you got to stay in the Midrash the whole day, davening and learning. So the machlekes Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua. My timer, it's the day that the Torah was given, Shavuos. So Rav Yosef, b'yayma de atzarta, in the day of Atzeres, which is Shavuos here, avdei agla talsa, he would make a calf that was the best, according to Rashi's Pirush, it was a calf that was third to the womb, which is the best. Omer yi, alav, hai, Omer, if it wouldn't be for this day, which is Shavuos, the giving of the Torah, the Kogorim, that caused me to be able to learn so much, then Kama Yosef Ika B'Shukah. How many Yosefs are there in the Shuk? And many people named Yosef, and they don't know a whole lot of anything. Like Sabrat in the Midrash Tanchuma Parshas Kisisa, Shalifisha Haluches Rishonos Nitnu V'Pumi V'Parhasya. The first tablets were given in public and openly, like it says at the Ksiv in Shmois, Vahi B'Yom Ashlishi B'Yos HaBoiker. In the third day, it's a pasuk in Yisrael. It was on the third day in the morning. There was huge amounts of unnatural phenomenon, lightning, and they saw the sounds, they heard the letters, things that normally people don't do. They don't have to them. And therefore, since it was so open, and it was, therefore things that are open are subject to Lion Hora. And therefore the Luchais broke. Now here it says they broke. He didn't say Moshe Rabbeinu broke them. They broke. Which is not true. This is from the Midrash Tanchuma. Not true for the second tablets, because they were given more quietly and calmly and in silence. With Perak Tesha and Tesha the Brachas and Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph, Amrinim Rabbi Yosef Sinai. There's a few Gemars that says, they said there's the end of Gemara Chagiga also. It says that there was a machlekes who was going to be the Rosh Yeshiva. Okay, and they sent probably to Eretz Yisrael, and they said it's either Rabbi Yosef or Rabbah. So Rabbah was very sharp, and he could bring back the Torah by just his pilpul. And Rabbi Yosef knew everything about Peh. They called him Sinai. Okay, Pirush Rashi, Shaya Baki b'Mishnayos Braisos Harbe K'nesinasam Mihar Sinai. He was so lucky. He knew, not only knew them, but he knew the clarity about everything. So they could ask him anything and he would be like an encyclopedia. Therefore, he made this third calf, third to the womb calf, because it was the most choicest selection, to remind him of the Torah, Nevi'im, Ksuvim. Three parts that were added to the second group of luchos with the Mishnah. If it wouldn't be this day that caused me to learn so much, but the forgetfulness came to the world because they said to Moshe, you speak with us. And that happened because of the Torah that was given with so many unusual miracles that they saw. They saw the sounds and they heard the lightning. Can't even explain it in English. It's not even possible. What was the difference between Yosef and the rest of the Chachamim? So now that there's forgetfulness for everybody else, so they had to repeat things many, many times just to remember it simply. So, but he knew all the Mishnayos and Braisos. So now you could tell them the difference between him, why they call him Sinai, and the other Chachamim. So if there wasn't a necessity for having these extra things, the Mishnah, there wouldn't have been forgetfulness in the world. Then it wouldn't have been recognizable, his greatness. Everybody would be just about equal when it comes to the knowledge of the Torah. Therefore, Rav Yosef Davka did that. He made this special meal. So if you say there was certainly that Rav Yosef so Rav Yosef was not happy that forgetfulness came into the world. He wasn't celebrating that. He was celebrating that he was able to learn and not forget. And this was his intention. For sure that the gezerah of forgetting was at the time of the breaking of the tablets. Remember we had the question of when it happened? But after it was declared that there should be forgetfulness in the world, so then it would be impossible that there wouldn't be one person in the world that would remember all of his learning. It's impossible. So it's a gezerah. Everybody should forget. Period. Because the Torah was given on this day, which is Shavuos, the 6th of Sivan. In that time, the gezerah of forgetfulness was not yet obvious in the world. So therefore, there could be remaining this segula, this treasure, somebody who could study a lot and remember, and not the gezerah, the decree upon the world to have forgetfulness. The only place that gezerah remains is somebody who's not really applying himself, as my mother used to say. If it wouldn't be for this day, then there would be Kama Yosef Ika B'Shuka. So he was very privileged and he felt that way, that he was not subjected to the gezerah of Shichcha. Okay, now I'm going to stop here. So I'll either finish it up later this week or maybe early next week so that we have a perspective about how important it is to have this segula of saying Shir HaShirim. Now, I know most people fall asleep by that time, but we're going to still say it by Shabbos Chol HaMoed. So, I mean, here's the segula from last week's parsha, but it's also pertinent. And I'm doing this Bezos Hashem as a segula, a merit for a person that told me this week they're married many years and they don't have children. And I feel very bad for that. Very special people. Okay, so this segula is Moshe davened before Hashem at a time of Eis Ratzon, a time of special opportunity. This means that not every time is created equal. For example, Mincha Shabbos is a special Eis Ratzon. Shalosh Shulis is an Eis Ratzon also. So anyway, we have to. There's certain times that when you open the ark, that's Eis Ratzon. So, but we can equally extrapolate from this concept that not all tefillos are the same either. As the same, and the same goes for segulos. As a rav of a large and prominent kehillah in the States, I try to be there for my people whenever they need me. One morning after Shacharis, one of my regulars approached me and asked me to speak in private. I led him into my office where we took our seats across the table from each other. Rabbi Shaya, I said, "What's on your mind?" "It's my son and daughter-in-law," he replied. "They've been married for a number of years and haven't yet been blessed with children." He looked at me and there were tears in his eyes. When I look around the shul, especially on days like Simchas Torah, I see all the fathers and grandfathers with their children and grandchildren sitting on their shoulders. The pain rips through me and I'm overwhelmed with waves of agmas nefesh. He paused, and then he said, "Would you be willing to daven for my son and wife and give them a bracha for children?" Reb Shaya replied, "Of course I will daven for you and your mishpacha, but I am going to do more than that." "What do you mean?" "I mean that I happen to know a very chashuv sefer called Zera Shimshon, a sefer that has served as a segula for many people. And I am giving you the sefer as a present, and I want you to ask your son to learn it." I handed him the set of svarim, and he smiled at me. "Tell your son, Bez Hashem, we will hear good news very soon." Reb Shaya's son accepted the gift with happiness and excitement. It's always nice when you have something concrete that you can do for Hashem. He took on himself to learn the sefer every Friday night after returning from shul and before making kiddush. Reb Shaya called me the following year on Erev Shabbos. When I answered the phone, I could hear the emotion in his voice. "Reb Yisrael," he said, "I just wanted to let you know the great news. My daughter-in-law just gave birth to a son, and we will be celebrating the Shalom Zocher at my house this Friday night. I wished him mazel tov from the depths of my heart. I wanted to know if we can expect to see the Rav at our simcha." He asked me almost shyly, "It wouldn't be the same without you there, especially since I remember that the part you played in the Yeshua Gedolah that came about through the bracha of the Zera Shimshon, who wrote in an introduction to his sefer, 'Your eyes shall see children and children's children like olive shoots around your table.' So, can we expect you to see you there?" "Reb Shaya, I wouldn't miss it for the world," I replied. "Not for the world. Have a Chag Kosher v'Sameach, and everybody with Simcha, Gedolah, and Hashem should be singing the Shir HaShirim in front of the Mashiach Tzidkenu."